continuity. And we have really kind of built the foundation and now are moving to locking into the area that I think is most important, which is the educational continuity, with the move from supplemental learning to distance learning. And rather than go over in great detail with you how comprehensive the plan is that has been developed and shared, and again, I believe we have 5 members who aren't parents, so I'll share all the information that went out to parents that really outlines what our distance learning will be like. And as I've said to my team so far, it's an idea. And I think it's a well thought out idea. It's well planned. The resources are there, the guidance, the commitment, the leadership, Corey, Ken, our tech team, our IT team, our coaches, administrators, teachers have just put forth an incredible, organized, deliberate method in getting this launched. This week is really about PD and getting things set up, making sure we're keeping apprised of any legal changes, in particular in the area of special ed, before staff and families get started next week. And so that's where we are right now. Again, extraordinarily proud of everyone. We still are looking at the June 16th as our end of school date, as well as maintaining our April vacation, which I just received from our superintendent's organization, a survey that was done that looked at all districts in Connecticut in terms of whether or not they were taking an April vacation, and by and large, the majority of schools are doing that. I think we may need a break by that point. We also, because our closure is going to extend to the end of the year, I think it will be a good time after 3 weeks to press the pause button, get feedback from staff, parents, students, and see what types of adjustments need to be made, because it won't be if there need to be adjustments, it will be what type need to be made. So I think our April vacation at this point, maintaining that continues to be a good idea. So, so as I said, with our overall COVID planning, we were heavy in the proactive and preventive when this first launched. We're hoping that people are doing that at home. We certainly are doing our part in district by keeping people at home. Hang on, I have to admit, Victor. Hi, Victor. And really trying to focus on the well-being of our staff and students, and being mindful of our outreach in terms of making sure that some of our support personnel have been reaching out to particular students and families, and that our families know that there are supports within the community, both through social service and through our local food banks. Kim, can you think of anything else? And being mindful of the budget, which we'll talk about later.
We applied for a waiver with the state of Connecticut to be able to continue lunch service in the non-congregate area, so that we can do grab and go. We're doing that 2 days a week starting Monday. We were doing 3 days a week. I think we're dropping that back down. We're offering a variety of sandwiches, and it's pickup only at the Cogachog High School, only 2 days a week from 11 to 11:30. So we're keeping that going as well. Participation's been between 4 and I want to say 23 on and off. And then we're also discussing, what we'll discuss under budget is transportation. Has been a big topic amongst business managers as of late.
The most, well, I don't want to say most recent, it just happened to be the area that I spent a good part of my day on is the creation of memorandums of agreement or memorandums of understanding, MOUs, with each of our bargaining units, because the contracts as written for each of those bargaining units is changing. The capturing the changes and the expectations of all the members of our bargaining unit need to be kind of memorialized in an MOU. Most important to do was with our teachers. So Craig and I and our attorney worked closely with the union representative from the state to finalize an MOU with the teachers on Friday. In that MOU, which I'll share with the board, we really kind of delineate the hours that we expect teachers to be available and online, which is 9 to 2, unless otherwise dictated by administration. What the expectation is in terms of using various forms of technology, feedback to students, outreach to students, maintaining outreach if a student isn't attending the distance learning. Additionally, we just found out today, but this was something that we had put in our MOU, feeling that this was about to come to fruition, is that the teacher supervision and evaluation will be waived until further notice, or while we're in the closure.
One other thing I want to mention is that we are able, through the Infinite Vision system, to run the entire business office remotely as best as possible. So we're able to run payroll, AP. We've taken home check printers so we can print checks, and the business office has a process in place whereby we each have an assignment, and it seems to be going great. This far in, but we're very fortunate to be able to run it all from home.
Well, one last or two last comments. Again, most districts are electing to pay all the members of their bargaining unit, keep them whole, if you will, from now until the end of the year. We've got our teachers up and running, and in the next few weeks, it will give us an opportunity to focus on in what ways various bargaining units can either do work at home, or if we get to the point where it really is safe to bring people into the building if they're separated, we'll work on that. And lastly, everyone's, we're as superintendents and staff, we're all in the same boat in terms of what we're doing and what we're trying to address. And I will say we have received an awful lot of positive feedback. We've had requests from other people to look at some of our structure, our communication, and just have reached out to us for advice. We hope to never do this again, but we could sell this as a package if there's ever another pandemic. And that's the COVID update.
Well, Kat, this is Maura. I can tell you, I already emailed you, but as a parent, it's been really awesome communication from you guys. And not once did we feel like we were kind of like flailing and trying to figure out what to do. It's been wonderful communication. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Hey,
And
Kathy,
Kathy,
I am. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Kath, I'd really like to mention I've spoken to at least one teacher in another district, and it's amazing how much our district here with you and everyone else has accomplished, because you don't notice it till you start talking to other people, and it's just phenomenal where we are compared to where this other district is. So congratulations. It's awesome.
Thank you. And as I shared with you, we have our personal trauma with Tim Fisher that has happened. So, it's a very, it has added another dimension of really just people feeling unsettled, concerned, like there's nothing that they can control. So, we're working on that as well, which is in any district is a very big thing when you have a staff member or a student who's injured. Never mind with the background of a pandemic.
Kath, do you have any new information? Is he still in ICU or any updates today?
Why don't I send that to you?
Okay.
I'll give the board an update on that.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been on my mind all day today, and I'd love to hear that. Thanks.
We can, you also want to indicate what you've done for the music program, Kath?
Oh, sure. What have I done for the music program? I brought Dean Koutsouridis in as a sub for Tim Fisher in his absence. We were here on Sunday passing out Chromebooks, and we did actually a conference call with the administrative team just to talk about how we would support and address what was happening with Tim's injury and the impact on the district. And I think it was actually Jimmy who mentioned Dean, and when I was leaving here, Dean called and offered his services, and Mary Ellen has worked to get him signed up as a sub, and he will fill Tim's shoes for the remainder of the year. We
also have gotten the CABE has set up a site for all the boards of ed chairs to talk about what they're doing. So I get probably 50 or 60 emails every day with what different boards are doing. I always forward the ones that are significant to Kath. And for as far as I can tell, we're about, we're probably ahead of most of them, but some of them have gone a little faster. But most of these things, the issues we are addressing have been addressed or are being addressed almost in the same fashion by almost every board. So that, it's good to see what other people are doing, but it's good to know that, we're right there. So. Any other comments?
Yeah, I have a question, Kathy, two questions actually. You mentioned what's happening with the bargaining unit, but we have some employees that are not in the bargaining unit. I think paras are not in the bargaining unit, as well as some of the hourly employees. What are we doing with those employees? Are we maintaining and keeping them whole as well?
The paraprofessionals are actually in the support staff bargaining unit, and the support staff group includes 10-month and 12-month secretaries as well. So yes, our intention is to keep them whole, as well as our other non-union employees.
Okay. And then my other question is, in terms of education, the students with special education needs, is that being addressed simultaneously or in a separate phase, or how are we approaching that?
It's huge. That's huge and simultaneous, and just with some new direction today from the Bureau in terms of guidelines for meeting the needs as addressed in an IEP, which is a legal document, and that outlines the hours of service. I can send the board a review, just kind of an overview from Jen in terms of the most up-to-date direction we have, but we are we have an obligation to the best of our ability to meet the goals and objectives as written in each student's IEP. And that's a tremendous lift, especially because, well, I'm going to state the obvious. Working one-on-one with a student who has OT services, PT services, services with the school psychologists, speech and language pathologists. Very difficult to do remotely, but we're doing the best we can. And I will share the guidelines that we've received on that with you, just for your information. I think you'd be interested to see what that is and what's expected.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I would be. Thank you.
It's Missy. I have a quick question. Can you hear me?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I had a parent asking, are we still going to the June 30th, or are we going to be able to end on our regular scheduled day?
We're allowed to end on June 16th. All of us are allowed to end on the end of school that we would have ended on had we not had the closure. So we will close on June 16th.
Okay, thanks.
Of course, we are going to, if we don't go back to school, we'll need to look at high school graduation credits, and also standardized testing requirements have been waived. Graduation as we know it won't occur. College applications for students, colleges that require SAT or AP. So it's just that's next on the list as of yesterday. We really want to get our distance learning up and running, and then as an administrative team look at the areas that need to be addressed given the potential and likely extended closure.
Kath, has there been any consideration that possibly for ceremony wise that maybe there could be something over the summer?
We have not gotten that far.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I
have not gotten that far. And actually, when we had our planning and response team meeting yesterday, I suggested that we might want to reach out to students and parents alike just to get some ideas.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you.
So this is Andrew. I was just wondering if there's been any discussion at the state level or maybe between superintendents about repurposing budgetary funds in different areas, kind of given the closure and everything else. I mean, I'm sure there are areas that we're not spending money on, and then there's other areas that may need more expenditures. And I was just wondering if there's any flexibility or movement, if there's anything from a board standpoint that we would need to be able to do in that area.
Yeah,
we'll be talking
great
about
question.
That.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that next, but there is the ability for us to take surplus funds from this year and put it in next year's budget.
Yeah, I guess I'm more concerned about if there's acute needs of repurposing or using. I mean, I'm sure potentially our IT resources are getting strained, and thinking about the special education component, if there's need to shift things into there to address the needs for more one-on-one support. It's more now than I think looking into the future about moving that over into next year's budget.
And actually, yesterday was was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday, where really it was the governor alluded to plan for being out the rest of the year. And so at our planning and response team meeting, I said, okay, one of the things that we're going to need to think of is exactly what you brought up, which is what are some areas that clearly need bolstering and more attention, and that Corey and I had already met or talked about what summer school would look like, and she was planning as if it would be in-person summer school, and we began to think about what it will look like to support students who have gone through remote learning and really need to be bolstered. So yes, we have begun that conversation, Andrew.
Great, thanks.
I just, before we move on to the next budget item, just want to thank Kathy and Kim and Jim and Ken and all the other principals who are working, and Corey, to produce this effort. I'm on the other end of a lot of the emails. We're going back and forth, and I know that Kat's in a conference call at least twice a day with the governor's office, health department, and the two selectmen, a variety of other things. So in between all these conference calls, I know she gets a lot of work done, but it's a tremendous amount of work right now, and I really want to thank you and all your staff for all the effort they put into getting this thing moving. So I know it's a big.
Yes, thank you.
Could not do it without this team. And I have to tell you in particular, I'm closer to Ken now than I am to my three brothers. I think I actually rubbed his back the other day by mistake. The guy's probably going to need to go to therapy for the rest of his life. Kim, as always, I mean, just unwavering. And Sue and Jimmy, Jimmy came in with his wife on Saturday to work for about 5 hours with Ken, getting those Chromebooks together. So, thank you.
Thank you all. Without that, the next is our budget discussion. There's a number of very odd things that have occurred by the governor's executive order. And one is the adoption of the budget. And really, under the executive order, I'm getting a lot of feedback right now, but under the executive order, it says the Regional Board of Education shall adopt the budget for July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021 fiscal year, which otherwise complies with the requirements of Section 1051 of the General Statutes, without complying with any in-person budget adoption requirements, including but not limited to annual district meetings requiring votes, referendum, and special district meetings. But there's also a number of requirements for public information that goes out before that. But generally, what that means is that as a board, we're going to vote on the budget without going to any public vote. The town is going to be doing the same thing. They have a similar requirement, and it says shall. In order to keep, not having elections and not having people come out to vote. That puts us in a really odd position for having to adopt a budget based on just the 10 of us. So I want you to think carefully about that as we move forward. The requirements also require us to have an extensive amount of public information. We have to cancel the April 6th public hearing, which is probably canceled by executive order anyway, and figure out how we're going to get our budget. And talking to the two towns yesterday and several other conversations, they're planning to have their budgets adopted on June 8th. We need to have our budget adopted by June 1st, which is a Monday. So we'll be having a schedule backing up from that. And in the meantime, we have to come up with a variety of ways to get more public information out on the budget. We already have our budget out on the website. It's out in a variety of ways, but we may have to figure out how do we get our recommended proposed budget, the final proposed budget out, either in a letter, a mailing to all the town members, or a mailing, or either published in the Town Times, something that reaches every homeowner so that they can see what this is about, because they won't have the opportunity to vote on it. So we have to think about that over the next couple of weeks as well. We aren't going to vote on the budget tonight. We have more work to do, I think, in terms of how do we deal with the budget requests and how we deal with what's in our budget. Both town selectmen have asked us to come up with a zero budget. Their concern is that if they have to raise, they want to not raise the mill rate this year in anticipation of any residents won't be able to pay their town taxes due to lack of a job or laid off or unemployment. So they're concerned that their revenue may be down, and so really looking to make sure that we don't have an increase in the mill rate this year. That's their request, and Kim and Kath have been looking at budget in terms of can we achieve such a thing, and can we move ahead with the conditions that we've been looking at for the transition to grade 3 at Memorial and 6 at Strong. And that's probably the overall issues on the budget. Anything else, Kath?
Want to talk? I'm going to take a little break and talk. You're too close. And Kim will.
I lost you.
Oh. Kim's going to just give some follow-up, Bob, okay?
Yeah, I mean, is there any questions on that? I mean, their dog?
Lucy, can we just remind people to mute their phones? That would be helpful. Thank you.
Hi there. This is Kim. Can you hear me?
Major echo.
Yes, I can hear you.
Why don't you shut yours off? Shut mine.
Hi there. Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay, good. The only thing I wanted to add on to Bob, he captured it as best as I can at this point, but I have been running various scenarios to see if, how we can get into help the town out without raising their mill rate. I think the best option available to us at this point, if it's feasible, is to allocate this year's anticipated surplus in our unexpended accounts while balancing a shortfall in any of our revenue. So say our gate receipts and our pay to participate fees and preschool tuition, things like that we will not be getting, and our revenue need to offset what we have for unexpended expenses. Having said that, I think that's a possibility for us to be able to do as I look at the estimated surplus as we stand today. The big driving factor for me to wait and see is how the transportation is going to work out. There's been a lot of talk amongst districts of, whose contracts have to be paid out. Vendors are reaching out to districts and asking if they will pay out the contracts. DACO did reach out to me. DACO did put their drivers on unemployment. I did ask for a breakdown of their invoicing, what charges went to fixed costs, what went to drivers' salaries, rent, etc. I have not received that yet, but our contract with DACO does not call for any payment beyond anything other than transportation provided. I did confirm that with our attorney at Shipman. Just spoke with him today. He agrees, and so we're not having to legally, based on our contract language, pay that. Further to that, though, we have been hearing through the, there's even been government discussions about this, about perhaps looking at having districts pay some of their transportation contracts. Some districts have it in their contracts that they have to pay 180 days minimum. Those are the easy ones. We don't have that. So we'll have to wait and see if there's any special legislation that'll have us pay that. we have right now an estimated about $400,000 of unexpended transportation. That's a big number for us that can help us balance the budget to close to a zero for the 2021 year. That's the biggest piece for me now. The other thing is, there has been talk about grants, that the special ed excess cost grants could be coming lower. We have some IDEA grants that are, things like parent activities, supplies, purchase services that may not be happening. Some grants have, like I say, a 10% carryover cap. So there might be money in the grant area that we're not actually able to get. And I just wanted to mention with the DACO, for the parents of current children now, we know how hard it was for that 1 month period of time when we had to double up routes and we had a hard time where we had a driver shortage. And then it got way better after that. And that's what we're fearful of happening. So I don't know if, the board can just sort of think and maybe, absence of legislation, what maybe we are willing to do for our bus company and our drivers. When I get a breakdown of what drivers get paid, there's also direction from the attorneys who've looked at this for many boards, and I think for CABE too. Kath will share that memo.
Just got, I think, an hour ago.
An hour ago. That really says, okay, well, that's all fine and good, but if you're paying taxpayer funds, you're using taxpayer funds to pay for for-profit business, such as what a DACO is, that's something to be cautious about. So if anything were to be entered into an agreement with the contractor, clearly it would have to state what it was for, and that it wouldn't go for profit. They'd have to bring their employees back on and take them off unemployment. So that's the biggest thing right now. Like I said, I've been running scenarios to get to zero, and that's going to be what will get us there if we don't have to pay the transportation. If we do, could still be 3/4 of the way there, but then it would require a little bit more, maybe some cuts along the way.
Thanks, Kim.
Okay. Does anyone have questions?
So are you gonna? This is Andrew again. Are you gonna break it out? And you were saying various scenarios like maintenance at 2% or a 1% versus a 0%. Is that what you're talking about when you're saying different scenarios?
Well, so I was looking at, what the superintendent proposed. The second scenario was what the board had said, take out the field storage building. The third was without the field storage building, but with our surplus that we're able to carry over. So there's different, what it would look like, whether, and then, if we're looking at about $785,000 that we would need to carry over in a surplus to balance the budget to zero. Which I can stand here with the transportation contract up in the air. If we don't have to pay that, I think that that's something we can realistically do. So those are the kind of scenarios that I'm running. What amount of cut would it take to get to zero, if that's what the board desired? And then if we had to do cuts beyond what our surplus was, what will that look like? And what are the areas that are priority to be cut over others?
Yeah, and I guess this goes a little bit back to my prior questioning around resource utilization now and into the near future. I guess I'm a little wary about shifting tons of resources into next year to hit some an arbitrary number of 0%. I understand the economic situation out there, but I think we're in extraordinary times as far as the needs that we have from an educational standpoint for some students in the district. And I really want to make sure that we are addressing those needs currently before we start shifting money into next year to meet a number that has been thrown out there without really any strong educational consideration behind it.
So I guess let me address some of that. When I think about scenarios and some big chunks, one is the reallocation of funds in this year's budget to address needs that we didn't know we were going to have. That I think is what you're talking about. We haven't even caught our breath, and it wasn't until yesterday that we really collectively said it could be till the end of the year. And honestly, I hope we're back in school in September. So getting distance learning up and running, the next phase is okay, what does our population look like? For those students who are in tier 2 or tier 3 or special education, for whom an absence of research-based daily consistent intervention is going to make a difference and could cause irreparable harm. So the kind of, as I said, the catching our breath, getting this up and going, and now saying, could we reallocate some funds to addressing some of these needs this year? Could we reassign some staff for very specific intervention and support? So that's kind of one bucket of, we have this unexpended funds this year. Then there is of those unexpended funds, can some of them be used to offset next year? And potentially, would there still be money that would be in our kind of classic fund balance that would be applied in 2 years? And then 1, 2, 3, fourthly, shall we take a look at the proposals that we put in, and given the circumstances, would we relook at the proposals that are in the superintendent's proposed budget to perhaps say, maybe we want to transition that position in. Maybe we can wait another year for a particular thing. And again, not something that we put our eyes on in any significant way at this point. But those are kind of, when we think about the budget, those are some of the scenarios, and within each scenario are a multitude of variables for us to look at.
One of the things we had tried to do was to adopt, a budget. I don't think we're at a position where we can move ahead yet. We need to evaluate costs to run to the end of the year. Do we need to use any of the surplus unexpended funds for what we need for IT or whatever else is needed? And then, what do we want to make as a target? If our target is to have basically run at a zero budget increase, and if we can use surplus, how does that look? If we can't use surplus, what does have to be reduced? The 2% budget we have proposed, what has to get reduced to get to that number? Again, is this an arbitrary number? Yeah. But, Kath and I were reacting to the town. But
prior to even hearing from the town, I have to say that I know that we have families that in a 2-week period are on free and reduced lunch. And I think that the economic stability of many people in our community can be significantly impacted. And whether the towns had reached out to us, this was a conversation Bob and I had, not in the, we should do this, but in the, what will each individual's ability to pay look like? And then what will the collective ability to pay be from both of the towns when we get to the other side? Well, we won't be on the other side of it. And they won't be voting on the budget anyway. And I think there are towns who may be using this opportunity of a lack of a public vote, perhaps a little irresponsibly, and that's not what we want to do.
The federal $2 trillion thing they passed does have money in it for the states and cities, but nobody knows yet what that will how much the state would get into how they're going to use it. So we've asked Ed and Laura, who've been involved with the governor, and our attorneys who've been involved in trying to figure out the executive orders to ensure that some of that can go to municipalities. But we don't know what's going to happen. So my suggestion is that, Kim, give us a number of options that we can deal with to get to zero, so we can evaluate what that would look like, both with using anticipated surpluses and additional cuts in the budget if we have to make them, to see what that looks like, and so we can act on it before we adopt the budget. I don't, if we look at a schedule for June 1st, we don't have to have the budget adopted by April 1st. We can go a little further than that as well if we want to get more clarity on the actual numbers. Is that correct, Kim?
Yes, we can. And actually, we wouldn't need to go to public hearing until mid-May. So that really gives us, we do have to notice the public hearing. We have to have 2 weeks to notice the public hearing. But, I think we could take just about the entire month of April in conversation and discussion about the budget.
Anybody have any thoughts about that?
Thoughts about what, Bob?
About holding on to the budget for a while longer until we get a better clarity.
I think, given the fluid nature of the entire situation, all of the unknowns as you begin to try to roll out distance learning Monday, I don't see how we could be in any shape or form this week or even next week to start discussing allocations of potential surpluses when we don't really fully understand the full impact. So I think we have to wait. I think we have to be patient. I think the approach that the selectmen and you, Bob, and you, Kathy, are taking in terms, and Kim, working to take a very conservative approach to the budget and to take into account the needs of the community, I think is extremely important. And I think I have faith that you're going to be acting in a very responsible manner, and therefore I'd more than willing to take a wait and see attitude into next month.
Okay.
It's Christine. I would agree with both Bob Y and Andrew's comments. And so I think kind of like, I agree with everything Andrew said. I also agree with everything Bob said. And so I think the responsible thing is, as we all know, this changes every single day. I mean, it literally changes by the hour. So I think really the fiscally responsible thing to do would be, let's wait it out, even another week or two, and we're going to have more information. And I mean, and then I think really on that note, also, poor Ken, I don't think he needs to do his presentation. That guy can have whatever he wants. He's done a fantastic job. Give him like 1,000 new Chromebooks. Give him like 2 more people, like whatever he wants. So, great job.
His presentation is so phenomenal, though. Like it literally, he's set the standard. But I appreciate it. The other thing, Kim and I need to get into the war room and shut the door and head down into these scenarios, and really, really look at, and I need to have conversations with my administrators and my teachers through the administrators about which kids, what kind of supplemental stuff, what would that take? How do we work with them? What will it cost? Who's out there? But Kim and I need to do that in order to come to the board and say, hey, here's what we're thinking here, here, and here. And then for you guys to do what you need to do and do best, which is to ask questions and probe and give ideas. We will work on that. And there's a myriad other things that are, requiring our attention as well, but we'll get on that.
This is Victor.
To work on figuring out how our public communication process is going to be. Obviously, it'll be a remote public hearing, but then we need to be able to solicit and receive comments and act on them. So this is going to be fairly unique time. This is clearly going to be the Board of Education budget without referendum, without votes. It'll be ours, and the 10 of us will be held accountable to it, I'm sure. But the times are very, very strange, and hopefully this will be the only time this happens to happen.
Laura and Ed and I agreed at the end of last night's conference that the three of us would work together with our tech people so that we are following kind of a consistent, reliable format for the distribution of information and the gathering of feedback. So, I imagine that we will be working on that within the week and can share that with the board. And probably a good time to mention that if anyone is listening in, public comment is on the web, our homepage, and on the agenda. It indicates that public comment should be through emails to you, Bob, and would be read into the minutes, and which is acceptable.
Yeah, email address is there, and we'll post everything to our minutes. I may not respond to everything, but it depends on what comments there are.
You don't have to.
One of the things that we both had in the budget this week was the field house. I know we've gotten some letters on it. The building committee did not meet, and Missy and I communicated on issues. What I did say is that the building committee did their job. They got a report that said, by unit prices, it could be from $0 to $500,000, actually for something, because 30,000 was in 120 for the field house. But that, my recommendation after, since they didn't have anything to act on and there was no proposal for a smaller unit, we did talk. Sharon indicated that you could build a smaller unit for a lot less money. But we don't know what that is. I took Victor's suggestion and said, my suggestion would be that the board act on the $120,000 and let the booster clubs donate, raise money for any bathrooms or toilets or anything else that they want in the building, and let that be a responsibility for them to produce the costs and the funding for anything that's inside. And we're not going to act on that, but that was how I had left it with the committee, just for your information. Again, that's another issue that we'll look at when we look at the total budget.
Bob, when do you think we would be acting on that? We had at the last meeting that the consensus was that
it would be considered separate from
Okay,
the
so
budget.
That's if it were going to referendum?
At that time, yeah.
Okay, so now it would be us acting on it, and you're proposing that we will be acting on it at some meeting in the future.
Right. And I just wanted to give you what happened that, because we didn't have the meeting, we collected the data. They did what they were asked to do, is to find out the costs. They had a range of costs. And I like Victor's suggestion that it's very hard to take 5 years of cost and build it into a project that would take us a year to build or 6 months to build. And instead, don't propose any internal workings to the building. Let the booster clubs raise money and then build what they can inside with our approval and meeting codes and all that other stuff. So that's what I sent out to the building committee, and everybody agreed to it. So, but there's no commitment on anything and no recommendation. That was just a side, just to cover that. I said that we would get it into this week. Anything else, Kath, on that before we go to Ken? Any other comments on the budget? If
not at this time.
Yeah.
Ken can get into present mode, so that if any of you want to retry to get into Google Hangouts, you can. If not, you can pull up the presentation that he shared with you, and he'll indicate, when he's on page 1 and page 2, so you can going through the presentation while he's talking. You ready, Ken? Okay.
All right, I'm going to try to do this in the same room as Kath, but avoid echo. All right. So it's telling me it's presenting, but I'm just on my first slide called School Year 1920 IT Accomplishments. This year we migrated to a new district communication tool, Parent Square. Parent Square offered us better communication from our teachers and our staff into the home. It unified all of our parent-teacher conference scheduling. We currently are, in the past, we only had a platform that serviced strong in the high school, and it eliminated a very costly plug-in for PowerSchool that did forms. Now we can have forms and take payments through the app. We've implemented a new asset management software called TipWeb. This is allowing us to provide better insight into our IT assets. We can audit all the technology in certain classrooms as we get this built, as well as the technology that's in carts. We keep better track of the technology that we don't have any longer, where they are stored in the building, who they're assigned to. We can even print up reports for when teachers come back in the beginning of the school year on this is the technology in your room, so they know everything that's there. We installed remote management software on all laptops. We were having issues last year where Windows updates would break a lot of our presentation tools for our teachers, primarily the wireless display. By controlling updates through this software, we've seen a 3/4-fold decrease in tickets related to Windows updates breaking machines. It also helps protect us from all of those updates that we see reported on the news that are breaking machines, because we only install updates that are tested. In continuing fashion, we've installed and deployed over 400 Chromebooks to our freshman 1-to-1 program, and updated a quarter of Peach, Cart, and Brewster, Lyman, and Memorial. We started rostering iReady through ClassLink. ClassLink is a single sign-on tool that we rolled out 2 years ago, and it allows for one-click access to hundreds of apps that our students and staff use across the district. By rostering through iReady, students' iReady accounts are automatically created, and they just have to get into ClassLink and then single-click to take their assessment testing or review their preparation materials. I know they're utilizing that heavily right now for the supplemental learning at home. We've upgraded our virtual servers. They just needed to be better hardware. We've also, at the recommendation of our auditors, implemented the first stages of laptop encryption. We started with district administrative staff and central office personnel. We'll continue to roll this out as we get laptops into our hands to the rest of our laptops in the district. We upgraded our security offering by 40 exterior cameras. We feel that we now have all exterior parts of our buildings completely covered. We also added a universal cell booster system to all schools. This increases the signal of every cell phone regardless of provider. It is reliant upon the service offering in the area, so unfortunately T-Mobile is still the weakest because they just don't have a strong signal in Durham and Middlefield. We started testing a district-wide password rotation protocol with our district admin, central office, and school front office personnel. This is leading up to a district-wide password protocol that we plan to implement during convocation next school year. The actual password rotation policy or procedure will be different depending on department. Teachers will have less password rotation than, say, the business department, who will have to change their password a lot more often due to the nature of what they work with. In the past week, we're also able to ready 300 Chromebooks for at-home learning in response to COVID-19. We've distributed over 200 of those so far, and we're trying to plan the logistics of future handouts. There's more to come. So we still have on our plate completing the programming of the open door notification system. We have all the hardware in place. We're had to upgrade our door access control system before we can get this programmed. The idea of this is so that during the school hours, the front office is, the SRO, custodians will know if a door that has been opened that shouldn't be opened during the day, and they can investigate. We will be installing visitor management kiosks due to the plethora of security projects and other IT projects we had on our plate. This is still on the to-do list. As I mentioned, continue the laptop encryption to all staff. Migrate to a new unified ticketing system. It's called Get Help. This has the ability so that we can not only take help desk tickets through the system, but any requests for infinite visions or ASOP or maintenance can be done through this Get Help system. We can have unlimited users. We have unlimited training as part of our subscription. And we hope that this will be easier for all members of our faculty to be able to get help with all of their various needs, not just IT. We currently have it on deck to update all of our security recording software. It's just time for those quarterly updates to stay up to date and secure with even security software. Those patches are important no matter what type of software it is. We're going to be implementing Google account backup for admin, central office, and front office personnel. While Google presents as a free offering of email and data storage, they do not fully guarantee restoration if they have a disaster. So this is our effort to ensure all of our vital district mission data is backed up and in our control. In response to COVID-19, we're currently trying to adapt our support offering from the IT department to remote. And we now have the challenge of, as hardware breaks due to wear and tear or accidental damage or anything else that can happen, how are we safely collecting this hardware and redistributing it out to the users? In support of teaching and learning, we have in service currently and maintain to keep in service 1,500 Chromebooks with an average repair of 26 Chromebooks a week, 300 employee laptops, 5,700 active user accounts. That's a combination of computer, Google, and PowerSchool, because pretty much everybody in this district, student and staff, has 3 accounts, 200 lab desktop computers, primarily Windows at the high school, Apple at Memorial, and Chrome at Brewster and Lyman. In support of all of that, we have 150 wireless access points to connect all these devices. All that data runs through 32 network switches with 38 servers backing us all up. In terms of safety and security, we have implemented laptop encryption. We have redundant server backups. We have a system in the high school and a system at Memorial so that nothing is in the same location. We currently have 57 cameras in use, 19 buzz-in stations, a key fob door access control system that's timed. We now have control of setting our building alarm codes, so we have individual codes for front office personnel, district-wide personnel, custodians, and even coaches with restricted access to certain areas of the buildings. As I mentioned, the cell booster system and the teacher visitor management. Proposed for the 2021 school year is expanding the one-to-one program to include 6th grade as it moves into strong. That's an addition of over 100 Chromebooks to the IT department's service fleet. Continue with our quarterly or quarter of the fleet update for K-5 Chromebooks in classrooms in those carts. This is in response to the end-of-life update policy that Google has pushed out, that SBAC and iReady backup that says if you're not on a platform, the current version of Chrome OS, then you can't use our software, and then we cannot effectively test our students. Our 2 major network core switches need updating. This will allow for faster data input and allow for larger amounts of data to flow through our network infrastructure. Some of our wireless access points are old and end of life, and those will be updated. We've been working on this over the past 3 years, and we have about half of the high school in Lyman to finish. Upgrade end-of-life printers in the district. We're on a managed print system, and there are certain printers that are no longer going to be managed by our print vendor, and we need to make sure we have cost-effective printers in our district that can be serviced as part of this plan. Adding an additional buzz-in station at Strong. We currently don't have one that's handicapped accessible, so that's what this is in response to. And we're looking to roll out cybersecurity training for all staff via a program called Know Before. This will be a video training program similar to the bloodborne pathogens and all the other mandated training, mandated reporter training that we have. We feel that in light of all the phishing scams and the viruses and malware and crypto everything going around on the internet, we need to provide better training for all of our staff to not only protect our district systems, but so they can protect themselves at home. Future, let's call it 5-year plans for district-wide infrastructure and security improvements. We'd like to implement 2-factor authentication for email access. That would come in the form of either a text message or a authenticator that's on the phone that gives you a temporary code so you can get into your email. Bring a voice over IP system to all schools. Currently, Brewster and Lyman are the only ones. We have very outdated phone systems in our other buildings. Voice over IP would allow for us to be able to actually transfer calls between buildings, as well as in the current situation we're in right now, we can forward our district phone numbers to staff cell phones if necessary, primarily the administrative team, so that everyone, the general public, could still be calling the work lines and reach everybody on a cell phone without giving out cell phone numbers. Upgrade the district data infrastructure to 10 gig capacity. That includes, we'd have to run new lines between all of our buildings, but our switches are almost all capable of this at this time, so that would just be a bigger interconnect project. We have the idea of rotating our ID badges every 2 years, change the actual color, the design, so it's easier to spot an outdated badge to make sure only the correct people are entering our buildings. And the possibility of an emergency management system that can help with crisis management, reunification information, store IT disaster recovery plans, and document and improve our security protocols after drills. Moving into next year, I'm proposing an IT department reorganization and rebranding. Currently, we've got myself, the IT director. We've got our technology support specialist, Virginia, our network systems manager, Bryden, computer technician, Tony, and student information specialist, Jen. With that 5-person team, over the past 4 years, we've been able to increase the Memorial Chromebook carts to 1 cart per traditional classroom. That means there's no carts in the arts or music, etc., but students have a Chromebook assigned to them within the classroom. We have 7 active Chromebook carts, each at Brewster and Lyman, formerly 4, so that means there's more carts to share to get more students on devices as necessary in those buildings. We've standardized all staff laptop hardware. All of our laptops can dock into the same docking station, making charging as well as presentations within the classroom easier for our teachers. We've introduced a one-to-one program at Strong's a few years ago for the 7th and 8th grades. That came at about 250 to 300 devices added to the IT department's responsibilities. We've replaced the Brewster and Lyman Apple Labs with wireless Chrome bases, added 3 new security camera recording servers to minimize the traffic going across the network. All that footage stays in-house in those buildings. We've upgraded and expanded our door security buzz-in stations. We've added the single sign-on application and password organizer called ClassLink. Like I said, that allows for just one-click access for hundreds of apps for all our students, allowing more effective teaching, especially at the lower grades where they're having trouble typing and as they learn to type. We've expanded our secure print offering. No one can print directly in any of our schools. Everything has to be scanned by a badge or released by a code for confidentiality, as well as it minimizes our paper and ink costs. We've implemented GoGuardian in grades 5 through 12. This is a software that allows teachers to lock down a student's Chromebook during a class to only see certain websites. They can have a private chat with them, and it gives them better insight into their classroom management while students are on digital devices. With the addition of all the extra security that has been put on the IT department, we're proposing renaming the department to the Infrastructure and Security Technology Department. We are in charge of all the technology that makes it run, this district run, and the security that protects us. With this, over the last few years, newer responsibilities on myself is developing physical and cybersecurity improvements and best practices, managing cybersecurity education and testing software for employees, getting the IT department continued education for Windows Server, network, cybersecurity, disaster recovery, and emergency management systems, and researching unified platforms that encompass student information, district communications, emergency management, website management, and offsite data storage. There's also a lot of cross-training between the department, myself, the network security manager, and the technology support specialist, Virginia, which is we all share the responsibility of developing cybersecurity, increasing and expanding our network best practices in terms of security, like password rotation, staff responsible use policies, tighter door security controls, and assist in the facilitation of district-wide security practices, as well as the visitor management system. Roles we're adding to the technology support specialist, which calling her the admin assistant doesn't really do her justice with everything she does. She is the Jill of all trades for our IT department. We're asking her to serve on our security committee, assist with developing documentation of security protocols and procedures, and as well as cross-train on being a backup for our Power School and state reporting, which is currently serviced only by our student information specialist. I also want her to cross-train on Parent Square management. With that, we want to rename her to the Infrastructure and Security Office Manager. And as I stated, that's because she will also be taking over in sharing the responsibility of some of the state reporting. In terms of network security responsibilities for our network systems manager, we have the addition of the encryption software that we must manage and maintain, continue to develop and implement group policy, password, and other security lockdowns. Group policy is the official name of the software that Microsoft gives us to manage our network. Implement better testing methods for our backups, and continue his education for Windows Server, network, and cybersecurity. In asking for an additional person for the department, which I will get to the name later, we plan to remove some of the responsibilities of Network Secure Systems Manager to account for the other new responsibilities like managing and maintaining the servers, the group policy, and the wireless network, as well as installing projectors and security cameras. Our current computer tech has the responsibility of maintaining every device that's in front of a user, as well as installing new devices. He currently liaises with our managed print services, helps manage the secure print system, and assists everybody in the department with everything they need. He's also coaching our summer interns. In light of asking for an additional position, I plan to remove the print management responsibilities from the computer tech to allow him to more fully focus on repairing and maintaining the end user technology. Like I said, end user technology is whatever's in front of the user. There aren't really any changes to the student information specialist position at this time, other than we will be cross-training the technologies, the TSF, to take over some of her responsibilities, when she's on vacation or at continued education opportunities. The new proposed position is going to be called the systems technician. They will sit between the computer tech and the network security manager. They will take over the responsibility of liaising with the print management. Secure print management will be in their control. Maintain and manage our servers and network equipment. The group policies, protecting our computers, the wireless network, projectors and cameras. I also want to add the responsibilities of Board of Education recording, ClassLink administration. The reason for this, the main goal, is so that we can have a dedicated help desk team. We can have 2 people, ideally our computer tech and the newly proposed systems technician, that are fully focused on help desk support, all the break fix. This way, myself, the network security manager, and the TSS, or the renamed infrastructure security office manager, can focus on research, planning, budgeting, preventative maintenance, and we will all be cross-trained to support each other. Having the 2 teams, the dedicated help desk team and the dedicated research, planning, preventative maintenance, will allow for an increased offering of our already stupendous support of the district. And this is the ideal setup for the new IST department with the rename. Thank you. Is there any questions at this time?
Hard to believe you do that with 5 people.
It's taxing, but we get through. We live for the challenge.
The effort that you've made over this year is just incredible, and all your staff, and they're always ready to help. It's amazing. And what a great job you do. Any other comments? Anybody else have anything to say?
Hi, this is Lucy. I was only going to say, my goodness, there's only 5 people. Are you sure there aren't a few other people on there on the roster? It's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal job. Just 5 people. Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Thank you very much, and really appreciate the presentation. Cass, do you have any other comment?
I'm
Anybody
speechless.
gone?
First of all, I think that Ken has reset the standard for presentations to the board, which I'd like to thank him for, kind of. if we can wait till next year. And just to say that the absolute transformation of the department, I hope that board members who have been on the board for several years have seen what has happened in our department in terms of the organization and just the complexity of what we're doing or what is being done through that department and how well it's being done. So I guess that's all I would add to the presentation.
Again, thank you very much. Thanks for all your work.
Yeah, I had one comment, and given everything that's going on right now, this might be.
Can you turn on your
well,
speaker? All right, let's do yours.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, very good. Given everything that's going on right now, and there's so much going on that, this is more of a down the road type of a thing, but it's clear that the regional school district has a center of excellence in the IT department, in the IT area. And it's a center of excellence that I think the two towns could benefit from. When you look at the way both of our towns are operating, I don't know that we have, for instance, the ability to live stream our meetings and such like that at the town level. If we're implementing these types of structures with all of the backups and everything, I'm curious if the amount of cost that the towns put into their own IT, if that shifted to the school district and the school district managed it, if we couldn't increase the professionalism. But that's, again, it's something more for down the road a little ways, but it's something I think that maybe at some point in one of the discussions with the two selectmen, you could bring it up as a potential shared resource that's owned by the school district, but supporting the towns. And so, like, to fund the additional position you want here, you might be able to fund 2 or 3 and still provide a cost savings to the towns. So I'm just, thinking outside the box here.
Yeah. I know we've talked about it before with Laura and Ed, and I'm sure they would appreciate it.
Ken, I have a question about. Oh, go ahead, Bob.
No, I was just going to say, but what's on the plate right now, this is clearly not a time to be discussing it, and it's clearly not in this current budget cycle. So, sorry for that.
Bob, that's something that Ed and Laura and I and Ken have discussed, revisited over the course of the past couple years, and it just. It's just one of those things that, our focus has been on so many other things, but we've talked about how to kind of harness the expertise that exists in District 13 and also exists in Durham and Middlefield, and really enhance and have less variability through the school and both towns by having the collaboration and really working under and with the expertise that Ken offers. He does have quite a bit of reach out to Town Hall in Durham, and recently Laura reached out to really commend and thank Ken for how actually he supported the response to the Town Hall's actions to the in responding to COVID-19 and what's happening.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next, going on to the next item is communications. We've had lots of communication with Ed and Laura. We've kind of summarized most of that. I've gotten, as I said, hundreds of emails from different board chairs on this listserv. And basically it's all on the COVID-19. I do have more Michelle Demaro and and Nick Fiala both have raised issues on the field house. And that's about it so far. The other communication we'd like to indicate, so many people have donated to the GoFundMe for Tim Fisher that it's incredible to see the community come out and support. And 500 or so people have donated. It's just an amazing response. So, any other communications, Kath? Anybody else?
Where's your? Oh, I'm here. Well, actually, today I received a phone call from Henry Coe, longtime Durham citizen and very active in the senior center, who recently lost his wife, Lorraine, who had been involved in the Board of Finance, chairman of the Board of Finance for years. And he reached out to me today because prior to publishing her obituary, he would like to develop a scholarship for her and wanted to work with me on creating a scholarship for a student going into a kind of training or certification program in the medical or mechanical field. So I did want to share that with the board, and I'll keep you updated on that.
Wow, that's really generous.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I got a few parent comments or questions around video conferencing with teachers and kind of what the barrier was with regards to that and what the plans are moving forward. I'm sure that this can be addressed in the next meeting, but I thought at least bring it up that there were questions from the community about that.
Hey, Andrew, were the questions along the lines of why aren't we doing that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right, and that was a recommendation from the commissioner that we not do it, but I'll update that to the board in writing and revisit that at next day's meeting.
Awesome. Thanks.
You bet.
If there's no other comments, Kim, you had a report?
No, everything that I needed to discuss, we discussed under budget. Clearly, I'm not ready to give a estimate of where we are at this point of the year with so many things up in the air. But so just know that I'm keeping a close eye on it, and that's the main focus is the budget at this point.
Okay. So far on public comment, I don't have any emails yet. But I think we said we'll take them for the next 24 hours and put them in the minutes as related to this particular meeting, okay?
Sounds good, Bob.
Any other actions tonight? And thank you all for getting on. And we'll work out to make sure we're all in the same video system for next week. And really think carefully about public comment, public hearing, and how to get stuff out. And Kim, if you can start sending out information on, how we get to a zero and stuff like that. We don't need it for sure for next week, but it would be good to start that conversation.
We've already been working on that, Dr. Serrano and I. So once we formalize that up, I'll get something out to you right away.
All right. Does anybody want any of the documents of Beth and I are getting from the governor's requirement? We have the different things on the executive order. Do anybody want a copy of that? Send it out to all the board.
This is a mother of boys.
Pardon?
It proves.
Bob, I'm It's Victor. I'm happy to receive your executive summaries.
Okay. I think it's good for all of us to have in hand the governor's executive order related to public meetings and the vote on the budget. Then you'll all have it in your hand, and it'll be good for everybody to know what it says. There's also yeah.
One other thing, I know this came up last night in our conference call about what would happen to the terms of board members. I just can't remember if there was a definitive answer on that yet.
No, I think she said they were going to go into executive session and figure out how to do that.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And I think Ed Bailey's comment was we probably just extend everybody's appointment until the next time we can have a vote. Because I think Jamie and Maura are up in Middlefield.
Yes, I am.
Thanks.
So, I mean, I think
I will say.
Yes, go ahead.
No, never mind. Go ahead.
So anyway, that was the only other thing we had from the conference call, I think, was that issue and how we're going to deal with it. But we don't know the answer to that yet. All right. If there's no other questions, I have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Stay
Stay
safe.
safe.
Stay safe.
You too.
Yeah. Bye-bye.